I'm trying to figure out what the hell that, again, there's a whole lot going on right now, and I'm trying to process everything that I'm going through right now, right?
Of course.
So I walk back over to where wifey is, and she's still just losing it. And I get there just in time to see this little blonde nurse jump up on the side of the bed and start doing chest compressions on whoever's in the bed.
Yeah.
Then there's a parting of the way, and it's me. I see my face, and I've got like ice all over my body, and she is like pounding away on my chest. And, there's IVs and tubes and everything. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I'm like, this is not good. And right at that moment, I started going backwards.
A Kodega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with a Kodega and sharing one of yours. Click that like.
Yeah!
If you're new here, subscribe and have the bell hit for notifications to stay up to date on all of the new content.
In June of 2020, a group of teenagers in Seattle found a suitcase containing human remains near a shoreline using an app called Randonautica. This prompted them to explore the area. Randonautica uses a random number generator to create GPS coordinates and your intention to take you on an adventure. Quite the adventure. So, I'll ask you this. How does this eerie coincidence of teenagers discovering human remains, guided by a random location generator like Randonautica, challenge our perception of reality and fuel the belief that we might be living in a Matrix-like simulation where our actions are subtly influenced by unforeseen forces? Hi, everyone. I'm Rye, the Kodega, and tonight we'll add another fascinating story to my Codex of Curiosities with our guest, Devin Sisk. And maybe the next adventure you'll be on will lead you to question if we truly are in a matrix. Now, if you want to help out the show, here's a few ways to do that. Stop by my Patreon, check out the tiers, get yourself some swag through there. I've got a couple levels on there. Or deck yourself out in some of my merch from my Printify store. You can also become a member on YouTube. We have super chats as well when I do my lives. I also have an Amazon wish list where you could really help me out. And finally, you can share the show. If you have anybody that that's into this, anybody who's into ghosts, paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, the unforeseen, the unwritten, anything along that line, share the show with them. Or like and comment, or you can do all the above. Of course, all my links can be found in my show notes. All right, I think that's it. So let's get into this, and I want to welcome Devin to the stage. Hi, Devin. Welcome to Codega's. Hi, I kind of left you hanging there. I should have done this. I'm good. Devin, and yourself?
Doing well. Doing really well. Again, the weather. What are you gonna do?
Little hot in California. Yes. I guess you just got to stay indoors and get the AC going.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yes.
That and fans and ice water and swimming and the routine.
I know the routine. I definitely know the routine. As we were talking before, I'm here in Mexico, and when I do my my interviews, I actually have a fan right here at my feet blowing up at me because it just makes it that much more comfortable. I could sit out here, but then I'd start sweating, and yeah, no one wants to see that.
No, nobody wants to see that. It doesn't look good on camera. It's like, oh, am I glistening? Quick, powder. I need powder. Help me, you know?
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. I had a previous guest on, and he does a lot of documentary movies. And one of the comments was, "Oh, we love your shows, but my daughter says that you're glowing." And so I had to say, like, what do you mean by he's glowing? They're like, oh, during his things, he's sweating a little bit when he's out in the bush, like trying to find Sasquatch. I'm like, of course he is, but they want him to use some powder and maybe like dry off.
Okay, I have to appreciate that moment right there. Could you see that? You're out there trudging through the forest. You got your full gear and everything, and you've got people with you, and you're packed up, and you're looking for Bigfoot or the dog man or whatever it is, but you didn't forget the makeup artist.
Exactly.
Okay.
Powder.
That'd be quite a moment, and it'd be right at that moment Bigfoot would show.
Exactly.
And he'd be like, hit me. No.
Yep, that's exactly it. It's just it'd be right at that at the worst time. Yeah, exactly. So Devin, thanks for coming on the show. Why don't you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Okay. Obviously, California. I work with an organization called Napa Ghost and Legends. Okay. We do tours, events, and things like that. But I'm also a paranormal investigator. I've been doing the paranormal for about 21 years now, logged in over 650 investigations in my first couple of years. I have done work for Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, locally here in the Bay Area, Channel 5 Eye on the Bay when it was on. Also did a little local show called Creature Features, which is like Elvira or Svengoolie. So they got a crazy host, and then they have like, B-style horror movies.
Okay, so, those fantastic horror movies.
Oh, I love them. Love them. So we do that show probably like once a year now. So matter of fact, we shot last week. They're now on YouTube, so it's for everybody. So check them out if you ever get a chance. And Definitely. Then, I've also been on Ghost Adventures. Did one episode with them out here on the Sacramento Delta. And we are currently shopping around our own different take on paranormal investigating. It's going to be a totally different show. Right now, it's kind of in the works. So we've got a couple of different people shopping it, as they say in the business. We're shopping you around. So, all right.
That sounds interesting. So you're saying a different take. Can we get into that a little bit? What do you mean by a different take?
Well, we believe that there is a lot of things that are overlooked in the paranormal. Okay. Different styles, different techniques. Like if you look at our ancestors, okay, they were making spiritual contact throughout their, lifetimes. Whether it was using, psilocybin, whether it was using chicha or any other kind of hallucinogenic, they would, try to dial into that metaphysical side, chanting, drum circles, things like that, music. Now, what does that have to do with the paranormal? Well, it's all frequency and vibration. Okay. So if you dial into a certain frequency to communicate with the other side, maybe we can figure out a way of replicating it to a certain point where we can openly communicate. Okay. Now, we also have, without giving away too much.
Yes. I know it's still in the works. So a lot of times we just kind of want to keep things a little hush.
There's, for instance, I'm a dowser.
Okay.
Yep. I use dowsing rods, and over the years, I've become very, very good with them. And I have open communication with spirits. I've also found, missing items and things that are just out there. The craziest thing I ever found was a police case that I'm not allowed to give too much on.
Okay.
But I did find the person who was missing, and unfortunately she was passed.
That's too bad, but at least you could put closure to it by finding.
Well, that was the weirdest thing, Rye, because I was hoping to find this young girl, or I was hoping to find this young lady alive. Yeah. Okay. And unfortunately, by the time we found it, she had already been long gone dead.
Okay.
And I was kind of broke, kind of shook up about it. But the thing is that the family wanted to meet me and thank me. And it was, I mean, I understand it now. I kind of get it more now because I was able to kind of provide closure for them.
Yeah,
exactly. That wondering of, where's my kid? Where, what happened? And, so that was, that was a big positive, but it still was, it wasn't a happy ending. But, a lot of these cases that we work in the paranormal, they're just, they're not.
There's a lot of
endings.
Sadness. Yeah, there's a lot of sadness that is accompanied with a lot of that. Yes.
Yeah, my partner, Ellen McFarland, and I, we always say that some of these cases really do take a piece of your soul.
Oh yeah.
There's a price that has to be paid, but it's really worth it. It's sometimes these cases are really, really difficult. And actually, Ryan, you should have Ellen on your show one time and have her share this story, because she is what we call a trance medium, which means she trances out to get information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, her contact reached out to her, and it was the adopted mother of a little girl who was kidnapped. Okay. Ellen went into a trance, got information about where she was located, and so on. She was kidnapped in Washington.
Okay.
And Ellen came up with this information, turned it over to the adopted mom, gave it to the feds. The feds found them in a van down in San Diego.
Wow.
Now, I say them because there was 4 other young ladies with her. And obviously they were all doped up, and they were having, they were in a kidnap scenario. They're going to be trafficked.
Yeah.
Obviously this is going to leave a mark on them. It's a very traumatic event, but it could have ended a whole lot worse.
Oh, of course. Of course. It could have definitely.
Yeah. And the big clincher is Ellen got the information from the young lady's real mom who had passed away.
Oh shit. Wow.
Yeah. So it's like some of these things you're just like, wait a minute, what the hell did we just do? Because that's, even for me, that's nuts,
Right. I totally agree. Now, wow, Devin, we're just going right into this. I have a question. How did you get into this? What was your, I think a lot of us have a reason as to why we get into, well, some of us have like these defining moments that's like, that's it, I'm in. Did you have a defining moment? And if so, tell us about it.
Yes, absolutely. It was about 2002, and I had what they call a near-death experience. Okay. And I knew I was getting very sick. But I'm one of those people that when I'm sick, I don't like to be fussed with too much.
Not me. I'm like, yes, please help me. I'm dying. I have a cold. I'm like, I'm dying. Yeah.
It's like, this hangnail is the worst. You don't understand. I think it's gangrene. I might lose my leg.
Exactly. You have no idea. You're hitting the nail on the head there. Yeah.
Okay, evidently we're polar opposites on that one. Because I'm like, come in my room, leave me a cup of water, poke me with a stick, make sure I'm not dead.
Yeah.
Then get the hell out of my room. Okay, just let me sleep and work it out. Okay. Um, so I knew I was getting sick, and I knew because it was the middle of summer, and I was driving my mother-in-law home from the hospital or from the doctor's office. She had a doctor's visit, and I was cold.
Okay.
It's the middle of summer, and I got the heater on in the car, and I'm like, I can't get warm. I'm getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
So we're driving, and I call my wife and say, "Hey, I'm getting sick. Just I'm going to come home and just lay down and rest." And so I climb into bed, and for the entire night, putting it very nicely, everything is evacuating my body.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything, and it's like all night long, and I'm just starting to run a fever, and I'm in pretty bad shape in the morning. And my wife, she's like trying to get me to go to the doctor. She's like, "Hey, I need to take you to the doctor." And I'm so like fever dreamed out of it that she's talking to me, and I can't even, my brain's so fried right now, I can't even listen to her. I'm just like,
Okay.
"Yeah, I'll get dressed." Yeah. And like nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, she literally sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. Okay. The wah, 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 wah. Yeah, totally that. Okay. And I'm like, so at one point she goes, "I think I need to call an ambulance." And according to her, I turned to her and I go, "Yes, I think that's best." But it was very clear. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Which didn't make sense because like moments ago, I was like a blubbering idiot. I was just, calls the ambulance shows up, and they're like, "Okay, he's got a really high fever. We got to get him to the hospital. He's obviously very sick because, he's still throwing up. Everything's going on. Very, very bad." I don't remember any of that. I remember being in the ambulance, and I'm kind of a jokester. I kind of like to crack jokes, and it's just who I am. And I remember being on the gurney, and the paramedic was working on me. But to me, the ambulance looked crowded.
Okay.
Like there was 4 or 5 people in there. And I'm like, in my head, I was thinking, it looks like the Keystone Cops in here, which I thought was hilarious. So I tried to say that. I'm sure it came out something like,
Yeah.
and he didn't get it. They bring me into the ER, and I remember a very cute nurse comes over to me, and she said something on the lines of, "Well, how are you feeling today?" That kind of thing. We're going to get you.
Yeah.
And I literally exorcist projectile vomited.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah. And I was just like, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem." Okay. So I projectile vomit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the last thing I remember. Now I'm in the ER stall, and they're working on me. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Next thing I know, I'm standing next to my wife. Okay. And I'm standing right next to her, and she's losing it. She's screaming and crying, and there's this big nurse, and he's like bear hugging her. And I'm like, "Babe, what's wrong? What happened? What's going on? Tell me." I'm thinking somebody just died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and at this point, there was so many people around the bed that I couldn't see who it was. And I started reaching out to people and trying to talk to people, and nobody would respond to me. Not her, nobody. So I'm like, and your brain does weird things anyway. Okay. And I'm like, what is it? A practical joke? Is this, am I being punked? What the hell's going on here? Right. Yep. I know it's the stupidest thing, but again, your brain doesn't work right. Right. Yep. So I'm like, okay. So I walk around a little bit, and nobody is responding to me at all. Now, the crazy thing is when somebody would walk by me, they would almost have like a little tracer behind them.
Okay.
and it would almost look like black to gray.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I'm trying to figure out what the hell that. Again, there's a whole lot going on right now, and I'm trying to process everything that I'm going through right now, right?
Of course.
So I walk back over to where wifey is, and she's still just losing it. And I get there just in time to see this little blonde nurse jump up on the side of the bed and start doing chest compressions on whoever's in the bed.
Yeah.
Then there's a parting of the way, and it's me. I see my face, and I've got like ice all over my body, and she is like pounding away on my chest. And, there's IVs and tubes and everything. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I'm like, this is not good. And right at that moment, I started going backwards. And do you
Okay.
remember the old tube TV sets being turned off?
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah, it would go like this. It would sit there and it would just kind of go. Let me see, get in a frame here. It'd go down and like this, and it would go down to a rectangle, and it would just sit there and fade out, right?
Yeah.
And it'd get smaller. And I remember me and my brother and sister would sit there and we'd watch it so you could like see, oh, I still see things, and you know how you do dumb kid stuff, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the light, and I'm like trying to pay attention to the ER room. Light blinks out. Next thing I know, I'm on the other side. And I'm sitting on this crushed red velvet couch, which, not gonna lie, I was a little worried there for a second. Okay. I was
saying, I'm not saying it, but I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, that's a peculiar color,
Yeah, I looked down and went, oh, this is a cool couch. Uh-oh. So I'm sitting there on this red couch, but it was really beautiful couch. It was like the most badass couch that was pulled out of some blues rock and roll club in New Orleans. And it was like, it was awesome. Right. So I'm sitting on this couch, and there's all these rolling hills, and there's these trees, and it's beautiful. Okay. Everything's just gorgeous. Next thing I know, well, I'm surrounded. I had three big feelings. Okay. First, I had the overwhelming feeling of coming home. Like, you've been gone for 6 months and it's going to be good to sleep in your own bed tonight. That kind of feeling. Okay. And I was like, okay, so I think I'm safe. The next thing I know, or the next feeling I had, was I had the overwhelming feeling of coming home. And then there was 3 people that came up behind the couch, and I knew I wasn't alone. Okay. I was also surrounded by the most intense feeling of love that I've ever felt in my life. Like you kind of get it. You're like, oh my God, okay, this is what everybody's talking about. This is, we run around this planet and we're trying to find love, and it's like little pieces of it, And then when you get to the other side, it's like, okay, it's like the big cosmic joke. This is actually what we're looking for. Okay. The other thing was I wasn't in pain anymore. And for that moment in my life, it was glorious. Okay. I was just like, I don't hurt, and this love is amazing, and I'm in a safe place. 3 people came up behind the couch, and they're asked, we start talking. And I've been told a couple different things. Someone told me that it was my spirit guides. Another person said it was my guardian angels. And I personally think they were spirit guides. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 of them. There's one who is the spirit of a child, which hasn't been born yet. And it's just that childlike energy. And which totally makes sense because I'm the crazy, goofy uncle that sits at the kids' table during Christmas time. You know, I like, I love kids. Okay. So I totally got that. I understood that. The other one is this Earth Mama hippie chick, which I kind of have a real big appreciation for nature.
Okay.
The other one is this militant military guy that I call the Colonel. And he's the one that's always yelling in my ear, get up off your ass, get moving. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And he's the driver. So um, we all start talking, and they're like asking me these questions, or they're telling me statements, and they're telling me stories basically to begin with. They're like, okay, we were with you when this happened. Okay. And they were all pretty bad stories or moments in my life where I probably should have been killed or seriously hurt. Okay. So that's why I always go with the whole spirit guide thing or guardian angel thing, because
Or they're one in the same.
yeah, they're the same thing, which
Yeah.
personally I believe is the same thing. I think they're assigned to you and they look after you and kind of go, dude, what are you doing? So, but there was a couple of the stories that really hit, like, okay, I never figured out why I made it out of that one, like I should have been, should have been gone on that. So after like the third story, I'm like, okay, I get it. You're my spirit guides, guardian angels, whatever. And we start talking, and the conversation gets very deep. And I don't share that with anybody, unfortunately, just because
No, it's personal.
Yeah, that belongs to me and me alone.
Yeah.
But at the end of the conversation, they're like, okay, well, you've been given a great gift. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Tell me what I won, And they laughed, which I thought was good, but
Yeah.
I still don't have the 67 GTO, damn it. But so they're like, you've been given a great gift. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, you can continue on with the work, or you can continue on with the journey. And I was like, sitting there, the only thought that I had, the only thing that I could think about was my son. My son, who about 2.5, we were just going through testing and figuring out that he had cerebral palsy. Okay.
Story.
It's okay. He's a pretty badass kid. So he's definitely strived. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But at that moment, I remember thinking about him and going, I can't go anywhere. I have to be there for my kid. I'm not bailing on my kid. I literally said, I'm not bailing on my kid. And then it's the typical drop from a million miles and slam back in your body.
Oh, wow.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, they had taken my body from the ER stall into the goodbye room. Ooh. And, my wife was in there calling everybody, hey, Devin's dead. He's not with us anymore. And she's a mess. And, I sat up, took a deep breath, scared the living hell out of her. And, went back into it. And I ended up being in the hospital for about 17 days after that. What ended up killing me was I had a fever of 108, 109,
wow.
Which basically shut the brain off and stopped my heart.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it's, now, how does that lead into the paranormal? Well, there's a couple different moments there. First of all, I was walking around whoops, sorry. I was walking around the ER stall or ER room.
Mhm.
I was confused. I was terrified, and I couldn't talk to anybody. I could see everything that was going on around me, but I couldn't communicate with anybody. That's what I think it feels like to be a ghost. Because they're around us, and they're trying to reach out and communicate, but nobody can see them, hear them, or feel them, or they're not doing it correctly, or they don't even know that they have a ghost in their house, or which happens in a lot of cases too. The other thing was, why was I given a choice? I'm like, we hear about spirits that are trapped behind, and why don't they go into the light? Okay, why don't they go through the tunnel, even if it's backwards like me? Why don't they go through that tunnel? Okay.
Yeah.
So my whole goal was to find people and to investigate and to try to help the spirits that are here, whether it's crossing them over, giving them peace, or just figuring out exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So, and here we are.
I think that's quite noble of you too. I think that's fantastic. There's a lot of times you get people who just want, I just want to communicate, or I just want to yell at them or scream at them, and I'm like, for what? What purpose? And I feel I like the way that you're going with this. I watched another show. I was really into this one show called Dead Files, and
right.
Yeah, and a lot of times it was like trying to help the people and to help the spirits move on.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. It's like, because we do a lot of conventions, and we do a lot of, events where people will, and whenever you tell people you're a paranormal investigator, you probably get this too. They want to share your story. They want to tell you, hey, this is what happened to me. This is what, I experienced, which I love. Okay. I love hearing the stories and love that whole part of the community. But the thing that kind of always got to me was that, somebody would come up to you and go, I want you to check this out. I got this crazy EVP. And I'm like, all right, lay it on me, and the EVP would play, and it would be like, help me. And I'm like, wow, that's, it's class A EVP. That's a great piece of evidence. And he's like, yeah. And I go, so what'd you do with that evidence? What did you do? And he goes, well, I posted it on YouTube, got 1 million hits. And I'm like, no, what I mean is, what'd you do for the spirit? What'd you do for that ghost, man? And it's like, I've always strived to change the thinking of the community, try to push that, hey, it's not the horror show Halloween ghosts that are flying around, man. These are actual living beings. They're living spirits.
Yeah. And it literally is calling out, saying, help me. Like
right.
Like that's yeah. And I agree with you when you ask, like, what'd you do? And he's like saying, oh, I posted it to YouTube. It's like, oh, yeah, you just like imagine it was another person. Imagine that. Well, it is more or less, but
right.
If someone's yelling, help me, and you're like, well, I guess that's kind of what's happening in this day and age. Everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna get 1 million views on this guy. I'm not gonna help him. I'm just gonna video him. That is, I find that's kind of the mentality of now, in this day and age, where people just, they want clout and they don't want to actually help people anymore.
Yeah, it's I mean, a lot of the paranormal communities turned into, it's a circus, man. Unfortunately, it's like, and it's very easy to get caught up in,
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's terrifyingly easy to get caught up in. And
it's harder work to stay out of all that circus than it is to actually be involved with the circus.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, we started doing crossings, and I didn't know what I was had no clue.
Yeah.
Right. Had no clue. So started finding like-minded people with a lot of trial and error.
I could
And,
imagine. I could imagine. Yes.
it's like, what are you doing? Started finding like-minded people
Mhm.
and started doing the research, started studying, started putting, you know, theory to practice and putting ideas to practice. It's like one of our big things is like, I don't like to say we have a team. We have a team, but we're just a bunch of like-minded individuals. We don't have t-shirts and, hey, um, we always joke about ourselves. We always change the name. Like, I think last week we were Mariachi Paranormal, I think. And then like the week before it was like Misfit Paranormal. It's like,
You guys are definitely a good almost like a family. It sounds like more than a team.
big time. Big time. And the crossings, because we all have our moments of doubt.
Yeah.
You're like, what am I doing? What the hell am I doing? What am I doing? But when you get confirmation, and it always seems that confirmation comes through when you absolutely need it. Okay.
Yeah.
There was one case I did, and I was having my moment of doubt.
Okay.
I was like, do I really want to pursue this? It's become a circus, and I don't know where I want to go, what direction. And I was doing a show or they were doing an event at this metaphysical bookstore, and I was there promoting one of our tours and the event and handing out information, just doing questions. And the metaphysical bookstore had like, some special, like, 15 readings for like $15 or some crazy thing like that.
Yeah.
And there was a lady across the room from me. I'd never met her before. And she comes over at the lull. There was, people weren't around, and I'm thinking she's either going to lay a case on me or, something like that, needs help or something, which I'm fine with. So she comes over and she goes, I have somebody who really wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. Now, obviously with the research, I've learned how to do a cold reading and what to look for. And I'm sure you have too. And
Yeah.
what key points and all that. So I'm just like, okay. So she goes, I have somebody who really wants to talk to you. And I'm, oh, okay, cool. Lay it on me. And she goes, and I swear to God, she did this. She did the Amy Allen eye roll.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. She goes, okay, hang on. And then she comes back and she goes, well, there's a lady. Her name is Barbara. And the guy's name is Bobby. And their husband and wife. And I'm like, okay, I got nobody. I got nothing for you. I have no clue who you're talking to or why they want to talk to me. And she goes, okay, hang on. And I, at this point, I'm just like, I'm like,
yeah.
I don't want to be in the conversation anymore. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for somebody to come over so I could go, oh, excuse me.
Exactly. An easy out. Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, okay. She goes, I see you standing at a blue barn. And I'm like, what do you mean a blue barn? She goes, like a barn,
But blue.
but blue. And I'm like, she goes, there's an American flag painted on it. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, but it's not the regular American flag. She goes, it's the Stars and Stripes, but it's the circle one. Right then, right there, I remembered the case. Okay. Because there was a case that we worked. And I remember we were outside doing the land because they had something like 15 acres.
Okay.
And we were dowsing, tracking something. And we went over. Well, okay. First, she tells me, she goes, well, these people want to thank you for crossing their son.
Okay.
And I'm like, how did you know that? And she goes, well, I'm just telling you what they're telling me. And she goes, evidently you crossed their son. Now, this case was a bigger case, and this was a side note on the case. It was kind of like, yeah, we have all this going on over here, but over here we crossed this kid. It was like 15 minutes. Contact, confirm, cross. Okay. It's not a case that I talk about. There's plenty of crossings that we've done that are just like, over the top amazing, especially with the historical research. Okay.
Okay.
This one was one of those where you're just like,
Just
okay, how did she know about this?
fair enough.
And she goes, they just wanted to thank you. And I was like, okay. So that's when I was like, okay, so there's a lot more to it. And then you also get the, there's certain signs that spirits will leave you when they do cross, whether it's the scent of flowers, whether it's, I always call it the kiss on the cheek, because
Okay.
a lot of times we do a circle and then we do a visualization. Okay. We put that spirit in the middle and then we push them up or they go up or however you want to do it. There's many ways of doing that. This is just the way we do it.
Yeah.
Now, people in our circle will often feel brushes on the cheek. Some people will get the kiss on the cheek, as I call it. And then sometimes we'll have that buzz afterwards. And then sometimes people will smell like fresh flowers, and that's only happened probably about 5 times with all the
Okay.
crossings we've done. But it's amazing, especially when you're in like Virginia City, up in, a place that is filled with Christmas ornaments of the past and dirty and dingy and smells like, old shoes. And then all of a sudden it clears out and it smells like you're walking in the middle of a florist,
Okay.
So there's those signs too. So, it's good stuff though.
That's really, really interesting and fascinating. And I think that's really beautiful that what you're doing, that's something that I could get behind and support wholeheartedly. There's
Thank you.
there's a lot of times like I started watching all these ghost hunters and whatnot, and it never it was interesting, but it's interesting to get the evidence, I guess you could say, but then what? It's just like, yeah, okay, we're leaving. Bye.
Yeah, I never understood that.
Yeah.
Never understood that, I mean, it's like there has to be something you can do. I mean, it's like even on our tours, it's a constant question. It's like, well, can you cross these ghosts over on your tour? I'm like, yeah, of course. Matter of fact, if they want to go tonight, we'll cross them.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes it really is like ghost therapy. You have to. I had one guy when I had a Benicia tour, and for 5 years he would share his story.
Yeah.
In every weekend, and then finally one day he's just like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I still have the story, which I can share, which is fine with me.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that he finally went,
Amazing and beautiful as well. Again, like I said, yeah. So when I was going to ask, like, do some ghosts just want to stick around and they're just like, no, I'm good. Is that kind of?
Yeah. I mean, I don't believe you can force anybody to cross over.
Okay.
I know there are some spirits that you can banish from certain places and things like that. I totally agree with that, especially if they're being, a-holes about everything.
Yep.
If they're causing family harm or, putting bad energy in a house or something like that. I totally agree with that. When we do crossings, it's about trying to send them home. And the whole, it's about them finding peace. Now, there are those that just they want to hang out. They're not done with the party, or whatever they're doing. It's like we have one place out here, out on the Sacramento Delta, and it used to be an old speakeasy and brothel. Okay, and like a legit brothel and speakeasy. You go downstairs, they still have the little slider on the door. You go down to the other door, and they have the coat check, and then they have and there's tunnels and stills, and I mean it was an incredible place. It was used to be old Hollywood. Okay, we've done EVPs there, and it's funny as hell because what ends up happening is we'll do what we call last man out. And last man out is something that we put into effect, that the last person out the door says last man out, to let all our recorders know that there's nobody in the building. And there are certain times that we've done that, and it sounds like there's a bloody party going on. We've got EVPs of music there. We've got EVPs of like glasses tinkling with ice, and restaurant murmur. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's just like, oh, that kind of thing. Glasses like tink, oh yeah, and yeah, it's pretty wild. So I mean, there are some spirits there that still hang out there. Now, the argument could be, is it residual? To some effect, yes, but we've ran into so many different spirits there that are just like, yeah, we're not ready to go. The party's not over yet.
Yeah, I was going to ask, it sounds possibly is that residual, but it sounds like it's like,
right.
No, the party's still going on, for some of them.
There is one room. There is one room where it has residual. We've got EVP residual of people having sex. So that one's pretty wild. Pretty wild.
It was in the back of my mind. Yes, it was in the back of my mind that I'm like, I wonder, but no, I won't ask. And but thank you for
well, I got to bring it up. I have to tell you. No.
Of course.
There was a lot of ectoplasm in the room. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, so I have a question. Like everybody always says, like a lot of reasons why some of these spirits stick around is sometimes unfinished business. Is that something that has ever come up where it's like, I need you to help me to do something, and then I can go, or
Yeah, the biggest things that I've noticed is religious dogma. People have guilt because they were not living their life according to their religion. Guilt is huge, obviously. Then there's just those that need a message sent, we had one gal, and this is probably one of my favorite crossings, in Vacaville. We used to do a tour out there with the Vacaville Heritage Council, which was amazing because they could fact check historically the information that we would get.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so we run into a new ghost, they would tear it up and look for all the information. Okay, so we're working in different parts of the building, and it used to be the old drunk tank, jail, courthouse, and fire department and police station. So it's just one big building. And we're doing our bit, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling really heavy and sad. Okay, and I'm like, okay, somebody wants to communicate, and they're very, very, very sad. Also noticed that there was a heavy smell of alcohol. It smelled like cheap whiskey. Now we're in the drunk tank, so I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know. So this young lady comes through and she says that she died of a broken heart. And I'm like, well, how old were you? And she goes, she started drinking when she was 19. And this was in the year 1941. And she died, and I think it was 1945, if I remember correctly. Okay. And just, she drank herself to death. Broken heart and drank herself to death. Okay. She just did not want to live. So I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty horrible. I'm sorry. What happened? So we're pushing a little bit. And mind you, this is a tour. This isn't an investigation where it's like the team is doing this. It's like I have like these guests doing the work. And we're starting to do the work. And she begins to tell us a story about her husband who died on the USS Arizona. Okay. Now, I'm a big history nerd, especially when it comes to, war stuff. I'm just like, I could eat it all day. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay. So we start going into that a little bit more. Sat there and got a name. Got the guy's first name, and then got the first letter of the last name. Okay. So I'm like, okay. And sat there like 4 or 5 times. If I look at the records, I'll find him on the ship. And she was very adamant about it. Okay. So we're finishing up the tour. We've got about 5 minutes left. And this is all happening at one part of the building. We go to the other part of the building to meet up with my partner, Ellen, and the rest of the tour group. And she's like, what's going on? Because mind you, I'm pulling people out and people are crying. Okay. Wow. People are very upset because first of all, she's terribly heartbroken and her story is just brutal. Okay. Yes. She's very sad and just torn up. We get to the front and I'm like, okay, we're going to be doing a crossing. If you want to stay, I would love for you guys to stay if you want to watch, or if you want to participate, I have to ask to use your energy and kind of break it down what's happening. Now, I haven't explained too much to everybody. Okay. I've just told them her name and we're going to be crossing her over. So we do the crossing and she almost goes like right away. Okay. I mean, like she was just like, I'm like, boop, gone, right? Yeah. So we're going around the room and, by this time, the entire building, everybody, group of 30 people, everybody's in tears. Okay. Self included. Okay. Yeah. And we're just like, okay, well, we're happy and blah, blah, blah. We're, did you see anything? Did you feel anything? Certain people got certain things. And I looked at my partner, excuse me. I looked at my partner, Ellen, and I'm like, so did you see anything or feel anything? She goes, it was wild. Now, she doesn't know the story about the USS Arizona. Okay. Okay. She hasn't heard this. All she's heard is that we need to cross this young lady. She goes, this one was really wild. And I go, why? What did you see? She goes, well, right when she was going up, she goes, I saw a guy in a uniform open a hatch and whistle like a crazy little song, reach down and grab her and pull her through the hatch. And I'm just like, whoa, no way. And then I told her what happened and she goes, okay, it makes total sense, because she's like, the uniform thing, the hatch. And she goes, it almost looked like one of those hatches that would be on like a spiral staircase going to it, but there wasn't any staircase. Yeah. So yeah, it was, that one was like, that was very cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Very, very great experience.
I agree. Wow. Those are these experiences that you're having, Devin, are amazing, and I commend you for the work that you're doing, because
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
I think it's important. It's one side that often gets missed, and a lot of people just talk about their experiences, but you're doing something about it, and I say thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a mission, right?
It
I made a
is.
choice.
It is. You made a choice.
I made a choice.
To continue on with this journey,
Yeah.
It was kind of say, like, the option they gave you was the work or, continue on with the journey. It almost seems like they're the same thing. They're one and the same almost.
Well, the way I always tell it is the journey is going forward.
Okay.
Because I almost think like the couch, because the other thing that happened was I was on one side of the couch, they were on the other. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I kind of knew if I walked around the other side of the couch, I wasn't coming back.
Okay.
So I think the work is what I'm doing now.
Definitely. 100%. I agree with you. And I'm glad you are. I'm glad you stuck around, and I know your son is too, definitely.
I'll remind him of that. No. No, he's a good kid. He's a good, yeah. I always pull that card. No, I don't. I don't. He's a good kid though. I'm really, he's a multi gold medalist for Special Olympics.
Oh, awesome.
He swims the backstroke. Actually, he's made his handicap work for him. He swims the backstroke amazingly. He's getting ready to start teaching kids.
Good on.
I've done improv class with him. He's now acting. So I mean, he's got a great journey in front of him. So.
Definitely. Yeah. It sounds like he's definitely taken it, and he's not playing the victim at all. He's using it as an advantage, which is great.
We don't do that in this house.
That is awesome. I won't say that I play the victim all the time, but there are some times where I just want just a little bit of sympathy, just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, every now and then you kind of have to, like, I'm shutting down. I need to, excuse me for a second. Sorry. You have to shut down for a moment,
Yeah. And okay. Usually my interviews last about an hour, give or take a little bit, but I have one more question. Have you ever had any really nefarious encounters? Was there anything where you had to, like, I don't want to say exercise, but perhaps clear them out of there and that's it, get out kind of thing?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, excuse me one second. Let me get a little sip here.
Not a problem.
So we constantly run into hard cases, where it's like, oh, we've worked with a couple other teams and now you're calling us, which is fine. So we do end up working with a lot of difficult spirits to work with. We do think that a lot of demonic cases are not demonic, just simply because of the way the activity is laid out. My partner, Ellen, she coined a phrase called collective haunting. Okay. And what we believe that is where there's 2 or 3 strong spirits that are able to use their energy together to do extraordinary things. Okay. And usually it's kind of, I don't want to say violent, but kind of aggressive, throwing things or, scratching people really hard or, just doing what a normal haunting wouldn't be. Okay. So a little bit more. We've also had a case where there was 3 of these spirits that would pull other weaker spirits in and kind of use their energy almost like batteries. So, and it's, I think a lot of these cases out there that are getting called demonic cases are actually what we consider collective hauntings. Now, out of all my time doing the paranormal, I've only had one case that I think was a true demonic case. And as far as I'm concerned, I am totally good, never doing that kind of case again. It literally scared the hell out of me, if you want to say that. The entire time we were working with this, we were 3 steps behind. It knew exactly what we were doing. It actually got into our houses, which was crazy, because I'm very big about protecting my house. Okay. And I have a lot of spiritual stuff protecting my house.
Yep.
Okay. And I do a lot of practice to protect my house, especially with the work we do. I don't want anything coming home with me and affecting my family.
Yes.
Okay. That's the last thing I want and or need. So I was writing notes about this case, and I'm sitting there on my laptop, banging away, and I'm kind of putting a plan together and writing out my notes of what I think we should do. Now, by this time, the church was already involved, and I had a priest working with me and also working with this individual. So I'm hammering away, and I'm like, okay, so we have to go through safety measures to protect ourselves and also protect the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm doing this, I'm writing, and I'm in the house by myself. All of a sudden, in my ear, I hear, you will never save him. Very loud, very clear. You'll never save him. So, sometimes when you do these cases, you run into people that are not, they don't need paranormal investigation. They don't need a house cleansing or anything like that. They'll need counseling. Okay. Yep. They have medical condition. They have something going on. And when I first did the interview with this gentleman, I thought he had something like that. It was pretty hard because he, he's like, yeah, these demons are in my house, and this one is a fire demon over here, and he takes us to the garage, and half the wall is burnt. And I'm like, okay, who burnt the wall?
Yeah.
Who? And he goes, I did that. And I'm like, okay, why did you do that? And he goes, well, I burnt it to burn the demon. And I'm like, okay, this guy's,
a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Right. So I'm looking for our exit strategy, if you will.
Yeah.
And we're going through with this. Sorry.
No worries.
So we're going through with this, and we're finishing the interview, and he says, there's another demon who does electricity, and he stops my heart, and then he'll restart it. And I'm like, okay, this is my out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what I need you to do is I need you to go get your heart checked, because if your heart's stopping that much, The doctor will know it. And I said, when you have that medical report, I want to see it so I know how to proceed.
Yeah.
So we walked out of the house thinking I'm like the most brilliant person ever. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to hear from this guy ever again. And I was surprised because a few weeks later we heard from him. And I'm like, okay. And I'm reading the report. Well, I didn't read it, but the gal who was with me was a nurse. She's reading it and she's like, this dude's had like a lot of heart attacks. It shows that he's had a lot of heart attacks. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, now there might be something. So we start doing investigations there. And he then went through somebody else. And I have a very strict policy that I don't know what other people are doing. So I won't take a case where there's two teams working on the same case and, work together. That's fine. I have no problem with that. If you could kind of work something out, but I won't put my team or me in danger because I don't know what they're doing and so on and so forth. So we stepped away and I said, okay, listen, if you need our help or you hit me back. Okay. All right, great. So a few weeks goes by and I don't hear from him. And then he calls me and he goes, this guy is ripping me off because he was charging him something like, I think it was 10 grand. Okay. And it was something like 2,000 for each visit.
Wow.
Okay. And I was like, okay, that's not right.
Yeah.
And so, and he flew the guy in from Louisiana. The guy came out here and he did the case for him. And, now he was saying, of course, he says, I got rid of all the demons except one. So I might have to come back, for like a tune up. And I'm just like, I'm like, dude, really? Yeah. So he's then doing phone calls with him, the guy in Louisiana, and it's like the charlatan, So I start taking the case and it starts going pretty good for a while. And we're getting them recorded, got the church involved, and the priest we were working with, he's like, okay, we're gonna take precautions here. Mm-hmm. And I was working with a 4-man team at that point. So we all decided that we were going to stay in a hotel for, 4 or 5 days, kind of keep an eye on each other.
Yeah. Okay.
And make sure that everybody was cool, because we didn't want to, again, go home possessed or go home with, the demon on us or whatever. And so we're gearing up for the investigation. And now at this point, I've been talking to the client twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And I would ask them, what happened, today, what happened this, tonight. And then I'd take notes and we'd talk. So I got to be pretty close with him.
Yeah.
I got to be very close with him. You talk to somebody that much, it's not just a client anymore. It's a friend.
Yes. Yeah. You're developing a relationship.
Yeah. Big time. So, the morning before the investigation. So this is Friday. We're going in on Saturday morning. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I call him. Hey, how you doing? He's like, I'm really excited for you guys to be here and, coming in with the church. And we were loaded for bear. I mean, we were coming in. We knew we had a fight. Okay. Yeah. And I'll tell you, this is one case that I was just nervous. I was, because it felt like, it literally felt like I was going to a gunfight with a knife.
Jeez. Okay.
And the priest was very good about, taking care of us and kind of gearing us up and everything. And so talk to him in the morning. Team's getting together. We're all getting together. Everybody's getting together. We're all jazzed up. Everybody's ready to go. And we're all, I don't hear from him Friday night. And I'm like, okay, well, not a big deal. Maybe he's just like out having pizza or something, or just doesn't have time. Or maybe he's just, I'm not going to worry about it because we're going to be there first thing in the morning.
Yep.
Show up there first thing in the morning. And he doesn't answer the door. So I try calling him, banging on the door, calling him. So I call his sister, who I was, at this point we were talking, and friends, very good friends, and trying to, we're trying to help her, her brother and everything. And she's like, well, she goes, I have a key, but I'm in, I think it was Tahoe or something like that. And she goes, I'll try to get a hold of him. I said, okay. So, we ended up leaving. Tried calling him Sunday, didn't hear from him. Sunday night, I get a call from her letting me know that the client is dead.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Wow.
Thank you. So we were vested pretty heavily in this, and wanted to figure out what happened.
Yes.
So I asked to, see the autopsy report and everything like that. And he didn't die. He didn't die normal. There were certain things about that, his passing, that were very, very brutal and very hard. It's almost like his heart and his brain exploded at the same time. And, it was pretty bad. Crazy part is that, we did an investigation of the house.
Yeah.
3 separate times. And there wasn't so much as a mouse fart in there. So, I ended up stepping away from the field for a little while. I was like, I didn't want to do it,
Yeah.
I was very, very heartbroken, and the priest ended up coming to the house, and he's like, I want you to come down and talk to me. And I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm good. He's just come down and talk to me at the church. Okay. So I go to the church and talk to him. And, he had already known about the investigation, and that we didn't catch anything. And he goes, are you still doing the paranormal? And I'm like, yeah, no, man, none of us are. I said, I'm thinking about just leaving it. And he goes, well, I can't tell you what to do with your life. He goes, but I really think you need to continue on with the work. And he said it just like that.
Jeez.
And I'm like, all right.
Jeez, that tie-in right there.
Yeah. So it took, even after that, it took a long time for me to sit on it. And, so I admire people who do the real work, the real demonologists out there. And I say,
yeah,
real demonologists. I could never I could never tow that weight, man. Not after that case. Now, having said that, if the case came across my desk, would I take it? Yes, absolutely, because somebody's in need. Somebody needs help.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
again, I'm okay if I don't.
I'd rather not, but
Yeah,
if
rather
it,
not.
yeah.
But if it happened, I would have to, I'd
Yeah.
have to give it my best shot.
It's because, yeah, you have a big heart. You have actually a big heart, and you have a purpose. You have a soul purpose, of helping
Thank you.
helping the people that are there, like this gentleman, but it's also helping the ones that are behind the veil on the other side and needing that assistance. Devin, you this wasn't really what this interview is more than I expected, and I think it really shows.
I hope that's a good thing.
A fantastic thing. I think you came and you gave some amazing stories and experiences, and it made this show really rich with all this, and I'm glad there's people like you out there doing what you do. Like it's very much appreciated. Yeah, and I'm glad I got to meet you, Devin.
Oh, thank you, man. And like anytime you're in California, come by. Oh, and here we go. Plug time.
Yes, please.
Come by, check us out. We do paranormal tours. We also do paranormal events. We have a tour in Napa. We have one in Sonoma. We're going to be opening one in Vacaville. And it's basically Paranormal 101. We give you guys the tools, we give you the methodology, and we know the history. So we kind of match it up with the spirits that we run into, and we make it a positive experience rather than, people are like, oh, I don't want to get possessed or anything like that, or have something. We haven't had anything follow anybody home like ever on the tours. So we also do events. We have a crazy thinking outside the box, doing wild events. Like last time we did a murder mystery. It was a written script.
Okay.
And it was time travel. Well, it involved time travel, serial killers of the past and present, and movie villains. So it was a lot of fun. Had a great time.
I'm in.
Yeah.
You had me at time travel.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Yeah, I love time travel.
Oh, that's another show, bro. That's another show.
Yes. And all the links will be down in the show notes. Devin's going to make sure he sends those to me, and I'll make sure I have them all in the show notes. Please, if you're in California or you're going to California, check him out. It sounds, it's not just a tour. It's more. It's a bit of a school. It's a bit of a class you're giving everyone, and that's a lesson I think a lot of people could use.
And as we say, come for the wine, stay for the spirits.
I love it.
See what I did there? That's dad pun power right there, bro.
Make sure you got those white shoes on too. You got to make sure you got the white shoes on as well. A little bit of grass stains.
I have it somewhere around here. I don't know where they're at. But yeah.
Exactly. Devin, I want to thank you so much for spending the time and coming on. I know it was a little bit of a short notice, and it was perfect though. I think this is exactly what we needed.
No worries, Rye. Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure meeting you. And anytime you want me to come back or anything like that, let me know.
Yeah, I would love to have you and Ellen on in the future here.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Devin.
Thank you, Rye.
Wow. Okay. So Devin came. I was not expecting that at all. And I don't mean this to discredit any paranormal investigators, but I was assuming, we got some paranormal investigation, but no. I love what he's doing. He's, they are doing the investigation, but they're finding the spirits and they're moving them on. And I think that's like the missing part, the missing key, the final step that a lot of paranormal investigators should incorporate, find those spirits, make contact with them and help them, because a lot of them are asking for help. It's, it was very emotional for Devin. And it's just, you could tell that this is his life work. with that his near death experience, he's continuing the work, and that's one thing I think we should all do is continue the work. And with that, I want to make sure everybody keep your curiosities wandering, keep the light lit, and I don't know, this has more meaning to it now. And always find your way home. Help them find their way home.
I look forward to our next adventure together as we navigate the mysteries that lie ahead. Until our paths cross again, keep your curiosity wandering and ensure the light remains lit.